And welcome back, everybody, to the second edition of Paws Up Preview for the 2024 college football season as the FIU Panthers look to rebound after a tough loss against the Indiana Hoosiers as they'll take on the Central Michigan Chippewas in the first ever game held at Pitbull Stadium. My gosh, the vibes. Let's start off with that, Kevin. Before we get into talk about last game or talk about Central Michigan or even talk about the unexpected news that happened earlier today, because spoiler alert, this was recorded back on Wednesday the 4th. What's the vibe check for Saturday's game? You have that cool giveaway. You have the Pitbull pin. That looks super sick. And it's just the first game back in so long. Just what are the vibes?
Yeah, I mean, fun start of a 4-game slate all in South Florida. We'll be at all 4 games, so I'm pumped. Finally get an in-person look at this team, or full in-person look. We obviously got the spring game, but aside from that, I haven't gotten too much more.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm pumped. Unfortunately, the vibe's a little bit lower. Obviously,
A little bit lower.
One of our good friends retiring from the game, and Reggie Peterson. But
yeah,
we'll talk about that. I think extensively. There's a lot of ways to look at that, but
yeah,
got to feel good. Somehow still an underdog, which I guess makes a little bit sense given the loss and given how bad they were in Conference USA last year, and the home record I believe just wasn't very good either. So, but got to feel good going into this game. You have a chance to win. You're facing a team in the G5, and this is a team that in many ways you could compare to what FIU has been the last 2 years, with maybe the opposite in terms of just offense and defense. A really good, a good offense from Central Michigan that ranked in the top 5 in the MAC, and then a defense that struggled, ranking the worst in the MAC. So for the past 3 years, so definitely a chance for FIU to really go out there and make something happen.
Yeah, but before we get into all that, let's talk about that breaking news here. And it's a shocker. A friend of both of us, of you and I, Kevin. He's been on the Paws Up podcast, episode 59. I considered him probably the best overall talent that FIU had. Linebacker Reggie Peterson earlier today announced his retirement from the game of football, and it hit like a truck. Let me go ahead and share the screen so we can take a look at this. He posted this earlier today. It goes, "The last 2 years have been incredibly challenging for me. I have spent a lot of time praying and discussing my situation with my family before arriving at this decision. As of today, I will be stepping away from playing football. What was once a passion has turned into a job that I no longer find joy in. Additionally, I feel like I am not suited for the politics that accompany the sport. For these reasons, I will be focusing on my education, master's, and future career in sports psychology. I will forever love and rep FIU. I bleed blue and gold. I'm proud of my journey here to walk on and become the team captain for 3 out of 5 years, to play as a walk-on and receive a scholarship, from winning the Perseverance Award to Most Improved, and lastly, having one of the best seasons of my life. I can say I made history and blessed to say that I have enjoyed my career to the extent of that." So it's definitely a tough feeling, Kevin. Not only have we lost one of the best talents on this FIU football team, but it comes in a desperate time for this FIU defense that did not look great already to begin with against the Indiana Hoosiers last week. So, Kevin, just what are your initial thoughts on the move? Obviously, we wish Reggie the best of luck with his career, and we hope all for the best of him. But how badly is this going to hurt this FIU defense?
Yeah, obviously, we could talk about the football second, but Reggie, great guy. I think we could both say, at least I personally could say he was the guy I got closest to during my short stint for now covering FIU football. Great guy, he's a talker, but he was great to talk to. Definitely gave us a lot of good stuff.
Some great stories,
conferences, good stories. Yeah, definitely. So definitely a tough one to lose there with Reggie. But things happen. Obviously, I did talk to Reggie privately. I don't want to share what he told me. We're definitely going to talk again, and eventually, we'll find out more of why he left. Just wishing him nothing but the best. And on the football side of things, definitely a tough loss. I mean, you said it. You're losing your best player on defense. He struggled mightily against Indiana. Didn't play a lot actually against Indiana. So Yeah, right now I think you would have to assume your linebackers are going to be Elijah Anderson Taylor and Dwight Nunu. So, and then you're going to see some sort of rotation between Travion Barnes, Percy Courtney. You're going to have the freshman Josiah Taylor get some reps in there. Still got to feel pretty good for the most part where you're at
Mhm.
with the linebacker group. That's why Coach Mack really emphasized the depth that it had. But yeah, definitely a huge loss. You're not just losing a really good player. You're losing the leader of that team, team
Yeah.
guys who only spoke about Reggie about how good of a player and good in person he was. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I don't think absolutely anybody saw this coming, to be honest with you. And yeah, I wouldn't want to say season from hell, but definitely kind of feels like that. Just these first 2 weeks of FIU football, you lose to Indiana, and then you get destroyed. Then you get this news, which
It's way worse than losing to Indiana.
yeah, honestly, you're
Yeah.
losing you're losing a pillar of this team.
So, I mean, he talked shop with us for an hour and 20 minutes on episode 59. We had to cut out a lot of it because we had to go under an hour at that time. We uploaded the rest onto our YouTube channel. He's a super fun dude to hang out with, and he'll tell you some great stories. So, with that said, we wish Reggie the best of luck in his career, and we still hope to see him at Pitbull Stadium rooting on the Panthers. But I mean, FIU. I mean, I'm sure Coach Mike would tell you he's got to move on. You just got to It's a next man up mentality in this sport. Where all right, Reggie's gone. Now you have to find the best possible replacements for him, which is not going to be easy considering what he brought to this defense. So let's recap FIU's loss against the Indiana Hoosiers. There were a few notable things here and there. I believe the final score was 31-7. Kevin, you preached to the choir, I believe the day after, about FIU's offensive line and their struggles protecting Kewan Jenkins. Dive a bit. I want to say dive, but summarize everything you said, which was a lot, but it was very insightful. And what went wrong for this offensive line, and how can they step it up with the key pieces that they have?
Yeah, definitely just not good play by the offensive line whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna try to pull up this tweet as I look for it, but allowing 4 sacks. The first one, Coach McIntyre definitely said that it was a mental error, which
Yeah.
I guess you could say that. I wouldn't say that entirely. I think
Mm-hmm.
a lot of these were just a lot of miscommunication, but I would say that first one, I guess you could make that case. That definitely was a mental error. And what is this? Okay, whatever. Let's pull this up. Here we go. Yeah, so the first one definitely mental error. I couldn't get the first one on there. These are the last 3 sacks in this video you're watching.
Okay.
But as I said, defensive lineman gets right by Jaheim Buchanan, who is the redshirt freshman. And then Travis Burke as well got beat on that play. Travis Burke, not a good game at all for him. Kewan even you could look at it in the broadcast from that full game. You could see Kewan kind of yelling into his ear to get it going because Kewan was going to run for a play. Not in any of these, but Kewan definitely lost some yardage off of that, and yeah, because of Burke just absolutely letting someone else pass right by him. Then the second clip, Jadarius Lee straight up just allowed the defensive lineman to go right through him. You can make the case that Jalil Davis, who I believe was I want to say the right guard in this case, definitely should have helped out a little bit. Just didn't happen, too late. And then the third one was just an absolute. It's not this one. This is a second sack, so you'll see it in the third clip right here. This one, where Keyshawn Owens just gets absolutely mauled by by the edge rusher. He is. I mean, just for context, Keyshawn Owens is 5'11", 200 pounds, while this other guy is 6'5", 286 pounds. So no shot there whatsoever. But yeah, just a super tough day for the offensive lineman. Again, this is against a power conference team, so you can make the case that these guys were just out of their league. But I mean, you can't allow 4 sacks at all. And even against Arkansas, I believe they didn't even allow 3. So I think it was 2 or 3 sacks that they allowed. Well, not good still, 3, but I mean, still, it was definitely tough. And a lot of these guys come from the G5 ranks, so I really don't see an excuse. Coach Mack definitely said that they have to coach them better, that there should have been better coaching leading up to this game, and they'll have a good shot to do it against Central Michigan, which is a team that has struggled a lot defensively, and FIU definitely needs to take advantage.
Mhm. Now, FIU, I think one of the biggest concerns we had heading into that Indiana game was finding out who could be the Panthers' wide receiver one, and I think we still have not found that out. We haven't even come close yet. You have players like Dean Patterson, Desna Washington, Rocky Beers as well. Were you happy, by the way, with how FIU utilized their tight ends in that first game? Rocky Beers got a lot of nice touches, including the first touchdown of the season for the Panthers. Do you like that?
Yeah, I love that actually. Yeah, I was going to mention that because Rocky ended up being the second leading receiver on that day in this
Yeah,
game. Josiah could have had a catch. Well, he did. He ended up with 2 catches. Actually, could have been 3.
2 catches, 12 yards. Yeah,
Yes, could have been 3 had that penalty not gotten over, had that play fourth down conversion gotten overturned.
yeah,
But Rocky Beers ended the day with 4 catches for 18 yards, 1 touchdown. He ended up having the second most receptions. And then Niemann had 2 for 12, as you mentioned. So I don't know, man. Definitely super tough, super good to see that. But now they're gonna have to adjust because Rocky Beers is likely going to be out, if I had to guess. A hamstring injury, definitely a
yeah.
tough one. You usually don't come back from those that quickly.
Mhm.
So I would expect to see the East Carolina transfer Antonio Ferguson get a lot of reps. He seems to now be fully healthy. Him
Yeah,
and Niemann will be splitting those reps. I know they also have, I believe it's Dylan Redmond, who also converted to tight end. They also have Braden Staten, a couple other guys there at that tight end room. So I don't feel too bad, but definitely Rocky had a very good fall camp, honestly.
yeah.
And so that would be a huge loss if they don't have him at least for the next 2 weeks, especially going into the Shulable, which you would love to have him. But yeah, I mean, the tight end usage was great. I was a lot more surprised to see it used. I knew they were going to use it a lot in red zone packages just from what I had seen during practice, but didn't think it would be used so much to where Rocky had 4 catches. And honestly, if he was still in the game, I wouldn't be shocked. I wouldn't have surprised me if they used him a little bit more.
At this point, you can only hope Rocky can get back to this team by the time the conference schedule rolls around. If you can get him back, in that break between, I believe Monmouth to Louisiana Tech, or it could be Louisiana Tech to the next opponent. I can't remember the exact bye week there is, but if you can get him back before that Louisiana Tech game to begin your conference slate with him, that'd be great. That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
How'd you feel about Kiwan? It felt like at times he looked solid, at other times he, I granted, not having much time in the pocket will do bad things to you. But how'd you think he went?
Yeah, I mean, kind of what you said, a little bit of mixed results. I think a lot of it also has to do with just the poor play about the offensive line. 20 for 29, 129 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, 69% completion rate. Nice. And then a 110.8 rating. So not the worst. You know, he was one of 7 quarterbacks in Conference USA to throw for a touchdown pass. So
Yeah,
there's something good about it.
something to
But
go for that.
yeah, exactly. But again, I think a lot of it has to do with the team that they were playing. I think it'll be a lot better against Central Michigan and FAU as well, 2 teams that have struggled for the past couple of years. So again, I mean, FIU played the best team they're going to play already. I mean,
Yeah,
the fact that they were able to score a touchdown, keep it relatively close, honestly, up until the very, very end, it was impressive. And Kiwan obviously struggled a lot. Couldn't get the ball, couldn't really run for too much, I believe. He ended up he ran for negative 11 yards. So
because of
definitely
those four
struggled there.
sacks. Those 4 sacks count towards that. Yeah,
Exactly. But yeah, I mean, you gotta. I would take this with a grain of salt. I think a lot of it stems on the offensive line, and Kiwan definitely noticed that because he was talking a lot on that sideline, and
very
rightfully so.
adamant. Yeah,
He was very. It was a Kiwan that I really hadn't seen in practice or even last year. It was definitely good to see that from Kiwan, kind of stepping up and talking a little bit, telling them, "Look, you guys got to get it going. We got to win this game, and
Mhm.
they can't fall behind. This game is a must-win game against Central Michigan right
It
here,
is.
and because if you fall to 0-2, you're forced to win your last 2 non-con games, at least to go 500 into the conference slate, which has a team like Liberty and Jack State who are the top classes of the conference. I don't
Mhm.
I don't care what Coastal did to Jack State. I mean, Jack State is a good football team.
They
So,
are.
but again, Kiwan, so obviously some things to work on. Coach McIntyre mentioned it held the ball a little bit too long at times. Just a couple bad decision making with the passes, but overall, I think he was pretty good. Just got to obviously fine tune up the offensive line a little bit, and I think he should be fine.
And the play calling as well. We saw a lot of screen passes to the left and right. A lot of checkdowns, most of which did not work. It was rare for Kiwan to actually air the ball out for those medium and long distance passes. I felt like the play calling was a little bit too conservative, especially in the second half was when FIU was already down by a lot of points. Their offensive play style didn't really improve. They still ran the ball quite a bit, which burned up a lot of time, and made that second half go a lot faster than it had any right to be when they were losing by that much. I did not like that play calling.
Yeah, and then Indiana dominated time of possession. I mean, 32-27. So, I mean that can't happen either. And I know, I think it kind of stems back to a little bit of just the offense being on the field for such little amount of time, and I think a lot of that had to do with then the defense. Kind of not fainting, but how do I say it? It's just running out of steam, and I don't think any player will ever say they ran out of steam, but you see it. I mean, they allowed that last second touchdown. You can't have that happen. This offense needs to go out there, needs to dominate time of possession.
So, I think defensively, FIU did not start off great, but they actually looked better as the game went on. Through most of the third quarter and until the very end of the fourth quarter, they gave up 0 points. They looked solid at times, and I feel like if they were to adopt their philosophy that the defense had in the second half and execute it into an unproven Central Michigan offense, I feel like you have to be happy with what the defense could look like. Even without Reggie Peterson, who did not have a good game regardless, the defense had a lot of positives to take away there at the end. Obviously, you have your secondary looked okay. The defensive line looked fine at times. They did get a sack or two, I believe, on Indiana's quarterback as well.
Yep. Yeah. I think Coach Mack was kind of talking about it a little bit. It's a little bit concerning when your leading tackler was a safety, well, back-to-back leading tacklers, but then you have to tell yourself JoJo Evans was also using a couple of those run scenarios where
Our player of the game.
Yeah, so I'm not too concerned. And just correct you really quickly, they did give up a field goal in that second half before the touchdown. But again, still, I mean, only allowing 3 points, that's what you want. And JoJo was mentioning this on Tuesday during the press conference that, they got out to a good start, which honestly they did. Those first couple of drives were actually pretty solid.
Yeah.
You've given up a touchdown, but still solid couple first drives. You were pressuring the quarterback, which was forcing these throws. And then, something that I was talking to someone the other day, the FIU secondary looks a lot better with Zeke Massis and Brian Blades, two guys who honestly have really stepped up and are a lot older now. They've been vets for a couple of years now on this FIU team, and those have been the guys carrying this team. And then you have CJ Christian and JoJo Evans, two older guys as well. So it's a very experienced secondary with the safeties. And shout out again to Shamir Sterling, who looked really, really good on Saturday as well, with a couple tackles there as well. He finished the game with 4 total tackles. The guy, and then defensively, we're talking a little bit about who takes over for Reggie. I believe it would be Dwight Nunu, the JUCO transfer, who ended the game with 7 total tackles, 5 of those solo, and then 2 of those assisted. Had a sack as well and a tackle for loss. So good stuff from Dwight. We spoke to him as well. He's very excited, and we'll see what happens, man. Definitely going to be a tough task against an Indy and Central Michigan offense that looked really good in that first week. But again, against a team that went 3-8 last year in the FCS. So we'll see. But yeah, defense definitely has a chance to really take over this game on Saturday.
Alrighty then, let's talk a bit about those Central Michigan Chippewas now. From the MAC, I mean, I think we've talked about this in the past. MACtion, one of the best aspects of college football. Seeing 2 mediocre teams out in the Ohio Valley just duke it out against each other, it's always so fun to see. I would have said Pac-12 after dark was better. Obviously, I can't say that anymore, but MAC is great. Central Michigan was not great last season. They had a 5-7 record, 3-5 in the conference. The teams they did beat were New Hampshire of FCS, South Alabama of the Sun Belt, and then Eastern Michigan, Akron, and Northern Illinois of the MAC. They did not look great. However, they did retain quite a few transfers. Kevin, just what are your overall thoughts on obviously an unfamiliar opponent to FIU? The last time they took them on was years ago over in Mount Pleasant. Both teams are very different since then. And they're going to be entering hostile territory against what I'm going to assume is a pissed FIU team that wants to get back on the right track.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they didn't see him too long ago. 2021, just 3 years ago. It was a very close game, I want to say. And funny
They
enough,
blew
the
a
guy
17-point lead in the fourth quarter.
exactly, yeah, Jackson McDonald, their guy who's calling the game, was
Mhm.
on that team. He was talking to us a little bit about that, but yeah, definitely a tough task. With they're bringing back their two leading rushers. I know one of them is Bailey. Not sure what the other one is. I think he was out last season against the FCS opponent. And then they're bringing back their top receivers. So definitely gonna be a tough task there, just getting those guys. I mean, Mac spoke about it, JoJo as well as Dwight Nunu. They have big backs that are really good. So they're gonna have a tough time stopping those guys. Hopefully, it's a little bit better than what they did against Indiana. Then on the other end, you have a quarterback with Joey Labus, I believe is his name, the Iowa
Yeah.
transfer. A lot of people are really hyping this guy up. Didn't
Mhm.
play too much. People are thinking he should have played when the Iowa starter went down for a
Yeah.
couple times. So definitely a guy who's highly regarded and should be again a tough task. Not like Kiwan. He's definitely more of a passer than a runner.
Yeah.
And this guy absolutely dominated the air game on their week one of the game. And I
In
honestly, I think
Central Connecticut, yeah, of FC. Granted, it's FCS, right? It's an FCS opponent. I feel like a lot of FBS teams would have looked good against the Central Connecticut, but dropping 66 points on any team, like, damn, that's really good. And Lavis popped off 342 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks. I mean, by the way, their former quarterback, I believe his name was Jace Bauer, has transferred to Sam Houston State. We might be seeing him on Vice Night coming down the season. But yeah, they looked good against Central Connecticut, but I feel like there's not a whole lot you can really take away from that because you have that asterisk that it was against what, statistically speaking, not a very good FCS team.
yeah, I mean, and definitely the one thing that definitely stands out to me is three touchdowns in that game thrown by what was the guy's name? Labus. Yes, Labus.
Mhm.
But again, I mean, we saw a little bit of everything, and honestly, Central Michigan didn't run that much, only 115
No, they
yards
didn't.
rushing on the ground. But again, that's without one of their running backs. So we'll see if the other one plays. I know Miles Bailey
Mhm.
was the one that played, and then the other one um who led the team rushing yards was out last season. So
Yeah.
definitely interested to see what that'll look like. And his name is, just to get the names out there, because he may be out for this game too. Who knows? While this loads, yeah.
Was
I
it
think
Brock Townsend?
I don't know his name.
Yeah. Yeah. The two returners to worry about: Miles Bailey, Chris Parker. They were both talented playmakers for Central Michigan
Marion
last
Lukes is the other one.
year. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Marion Lukes, and Miles Bailey, two guys who ran for over 100 yards, followed by Jace Bauer, who's now at Sam Houston. Actually, he's backing up. He's not even starting. He did not win the starting job at Sam Houston.
That's right.
Those are two guys to keep an eye out on. And then on the receiving side, with wide receivers, Tyson Davis led the team in receiving yards at 4 touchdowns in their last week's game. I don't think he played. So either he played or he's out, but he's not on their box score. So
Yeah.
maybe something to keep an eye out on there. But yeah, not too much turnover with Central Michigan. Then obviously the one thing to keep an eye out on would be just what the defense did, which they gave up. They were pretty damn good, honestly. They did struggle a little bit against the run. Gave up 211 rushing yards and
Yeah.
1 touchdown. Receiving wise, they were pretty good. Only 91 yards they gave up. So not too shabby. Obviously, FIU hopefully is able to dominate the run game in this game. They have 3 guys who could do it. Flex did get a little bit banged up in that Indiana game, but he seems to be fine. He actually banged up the other knee that he didn't that wasn't the ACL. So good sign there that he will be back. Seems like he should be good to go, and he will be taking the field first with FIU most likely.
But don't take our word for it when it comes to Central Michigan, because we, of course, have another guest to steal the spotlight here for a second. Please welcome in Adam Jaksa, the voice of the Central Michigan Chippewas. He'll be at Pitbull Stadium calling the game for CMU. I had the chance to speak with him not that long ago to talk about his thoughts on the game, his thoughts on Central Michigan up to this point, and what they can bring to the table. So take it away. All right, everybody. Thank you for spending some time to listen to the Paws Up preview. I hope you're enjoying it so far. Let's get into some Central Michigan talk as I welcome Adam Jaksa, the voice of the Central Michigan Chippewas, to the show. Hi, Adam. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on. It's football season. You can't beat that.
Absolutely. We're just getting right into it here. Week 1 already over. Both Central Michigan and FIU have played, and we've seen what both teams look like at a surface level. FIU taking on a Power 4 team, and Central Michigan taking on Central Connecticut of FCS. Before we get into expectations for this game, Adam, I wanted to ask you about how Central Michigan did this offseason as far as recruiting, either at the high school level or bringing in transfers from around the country, and even losing transfers as well. How would you grade their performance?
Yeah, I think they did pretty well. I mean, it starts with Joe Labus, who got the start at quarterback, the transfer from Iowa, who kind of was the best kept secret out there in Iowa City because he only played in one game. So you add him, and Solomon Davis comes right into the mix, has a couple of touchdowns. There's other pieces. And really, since Jim McElwain has been here, the transfer portal has gotten more and more attention. And he and his staff and the community at Central Michigan, you know how it is, Jake. You can only do so much as a smaller school to keep guys. You don't have endless amounts of money, but they've done a really good job of selling CMU, getting the guys up on campus, building this kind of tight-knit culture.
Yeah.
They've got great facilities with a brand new football building, a big video board, and a nice stadium. So they've done actually a pretty good job of keeping guys in Mount Pleasant once they get here. So I think that was sort of the trend once again in this offseason. While they did lose a couple of pieces, but they added obviously some nice pieces from the portal as well.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned Jim McElwain. This will be his 6th season with the Chippewas. How would you describe his tenure at CMU so far, and what are his expectations for this season?
Yeah, it's been up and down, honestly. I mean, he came right in 2019 when he took over. It was a 1-win football team the year prior, and it was the best turnaround in college football. In 2019, they went all the way to the MAC championship game. First time CMU had been to the MAC championship game since Dan Lefevre in 2009.
Yeah.
And they ended up losing, unfortunately, to Miami, who's got a great program. They're defending MAC champs right now and picked again this year. But to see that turnaround so quick, it kind of proved what a lot of people thought, that there's always talent here in Mount Pleasant. It's a football program up here and a football school. You just needed the right guy in charge. So he was great in 2019. They didn't quite finish the job. 2020 was so weird, where he sent half the team home and told them to redshirt because we didn't think there was going to be a season. And then they came back in 2021, and outside of a botched snap against NIU at home, they were within the final seconds of that game of winning their final 6 games and going to the MAC championship again. And then we get to the last couple of years where it just has not gone well for CMU. Their offense has not looked like a Jim McElwain offense had looked in 2019 and 2021. So back-to-back losing seasons for the first time since 2011, which that was the first and second years of Dan Enos. Tells you a lot about the stability of this program. And what I really appreciate about Coach Mack is he's very forthright, and he's come right out and said, it's my fault. It's unacceptable. He's embarrassed about them having back-to-back losing seasons. So there was not only a motivation from him and the staff, but also the players, because there's a lot of returners on this year's team to hopefully get things spun in the right direction and get back to what Central Michigan is used to with their football program here in 2024.
Yeah, Central Michigan has produced some great talent at the football level. Eric Fisher instantly comes to mind. Antonio Brown. I mean, my goodness. On the topic of the MAC, who doesn't love MACtion? MACtion is so much fun to watch, even as someone from that, from a completely different conference in CUSA. Where do you think Central Michigan currently stands in the world of MAC? You had mentioned Miami of Ohio, Bowling Green, also a very strong talent over there. Where does the Chippewas stand as far as the rest of the MAC and potentially getting into that championship? And if you win, the way the college football playoff is formatted, if you have a great season and win your conference championship, you have a good shot at getting in.
Yeah, I would put them right in the middle of the pack. I mean, and that's only, Jake, just based on going off of recent success, right? Ohio was in the championship last year. They're a good program. Miami, Toledo are very good. NIU has had a long stretch of winning from the 2010 to 2020s decade. Buffalo has been in that championship. So I would put them right there in the middle, but they certainly have the capability talent-wise to rise to the top. And there's no divisions this year for the first time back. So it's not West and East. It is your two top teams, which I think is great as you try and get your best team to win the MAC and then hopefully make the college football playoff that has just expanded. I mean, they have a good shot. They've just got the toughest schedule once we get into conference play. They're the only team that has to play the projected top 5 teams in the league. So if they get there, they'll earn it, but it's certainly not out of the realm if they can put together, again, some of the production that they did back in the 2019 and 2021 seasons under Coach Mack.
Yeah. So the Chippewas certainly looked good against Central Connecticut, but obviously, an FBS team beating out an FCS, sometimes you have to take it with a grain of salt. I don't know if there's going to be a whole lot of FBS teams who would struggle to take down Central Connecticut. They have their problems over there, but what were your biggest takeaways from that performance? Obviously, you drop 60 on anybody, it's going to look good.
Well, my biggest takeaway is we didn't have to sweat out the FCS game this year like we did last year.
Right.
A win at the end on a last-second field goal against New Hampshire, because that was the FCS game last year for CMU. It was crazy because you kind of came in and you knew that there was talent and returners back, but also it's 2 losing seasons. So there was known, but there was very unknown on what this year was going to look like. And I tell you what, I know that they are expected to beat an FCS team, and you still got to go out there and do it. But, oh, my gosh, everything. I mean, special teams were fantastic. They hit a field goal. They hit every extra point. You take a punt return back for touchdown, a kick return back for touchdown. Defensively, you give up a touchdown on the opening drive and a field goal on the opening drive of the second half. That's it. They struggled to create turnovers last year. They get a pick 6 in the second half. So you have 2 special teams touchdowns, a defensive touchdown, and then you've got a debut of a quarterback that threw for 3 touchdowns, found multiple wide receivers. And the biggest thing that we didn't see, and maybe this is based on how Central Connecticut State played, or I'm not sure, but we didn't see an established run game. I think that's the one thing that Coach Mack said after the game. They've got to be able to run the ball, and we didn't see that stability. But also, we saw them throw a lot because it almost looked like 7-on-7 out there, the way the offensive line worked and the way Joe Labus was hitting his wide receivers when they were open.
So it's an interesting story at quarterback for Central Michigan. You had Jay Spauer last year, put up some solid numbers. He has since transferred to Sam Houston. We'll probably see him on Vice Night for FIU down the line in November. Now you bring in Joe Labus. He looked good in week 1. All right, threw over 300 yards. How would you grade the QB room right now? And do you think Labus has what it takes with his play style to sort of match what Bauer did or even go beyond that?
Yeah, I mean, Joe Labus was incredible. That's exactly what you're looking for. It looked like a Division I quarterback. And I know he was just grateful to get to play because, again, there were a lot of Iowa fans last year that were perplexed why he was the 3rd string and he never even got an opportunity to play, especially once Cade McNamara went down. It was just Deacon Hill from there. So he transferred out and he played in the Music City Bowl. That was the only start, and they won that game against Kentucky back in December of 2022.
Right.
And he came out, this highly touted quarterback out of Ohio. And you know how rich in talent the state of Ohio is in high school football. And he was the number 1 rated quarterback coming out of high school. So all of that, and the fact that maybe he would be a little rusty. I mean, he came out and hit like his first 11 passes, and the first 2 incompletions were drops from his wide receivers. So I think Joe Labus can absolutely thrive in what is typically a multiple and balanced attack from Jim McElwain. He wants to run it. He wants to throw it. He wants to keep the defense off balance. The struggle will be Labus is the 5th quarterback that Jim McElwain has used in his 6 years to start on opening day, just with the transfer portal and everything else. And there's always been multiple quarterbacks that he's used throughout the season because it's a long season. The MAC is a grind.
It is.
And you hope that he can stay healthy. That's the one thing you worry about. You have Bert Emanuel Jr. He's this athletic sensation that he's still trying to figure out how to consistently throw the ball. But when he steps on the field, he's typically the best athlete on either side out there. He's been day-to-day with injuries. And then you have a younger room. You've got Tyler Jefferson, who redshirted last year. And then they're really excited about Jaden Glasser. Those two guys that are Florida natives that'll get a chance to come home this weekend. So I would say the depth maybe is something, and the youth is something that cause for concern. But right now, after what we saw, 18 for 24, 342 yards, 3 touchdowns, albeit against an FCS team at home. I totally understand. It was nice to see that consistency with the quarterback position. I think Joe Labus can absolutely succeed this year.
Well, when McElwain wants to either throw or run the ball, he's going to have a couple of veteran returners coming from last season, including running back Miles Bailey and wide receiver Chris Parker, not to mention some new additions. I'm assuming that Bailey and Parker specifically have sort of become veteran leaders to some of the transfers that they've added. How are they handling those roles, if they are? And who are some other transfers at the wide receiver and running back level to keep an eye on, FIU fans?
Yeah, so the M&M boys are the two running backs you guys potentially will see. The leader really is Marion Lukes, and he didn't play in this first game. So, Jake, you probably didn't get to see him or didn't see him in the stats, but he's the guy. And Miles is kind of, they call themselves kind of Thunder and Lightning. And the M&M boys with Marion and Miles, but they kind of pack a nice 1-2 punch. Marion is more of the speed guy and juke guy, and Miles is the more come right at you physically and hit you guy. So without Marion, who usually starts, albeit they both get a good number of reps, he didn't play. Now he's an injury that we think is going to be week to week. We may see him this week. We may not. I'm not sure. I would love to tell you, but I don't know. But he's certainly a guy to watch too. But those are the leaders in the running back group. And then, Chris Parker, Tyson Davis, unfortunately went down in fall camp. He was one of the leading wide receivers last year. So now it becomes Chris Parker. I think he had 3 catches for like 45 or 50 yards on Thursday night. And then we talked about, Solomon Davis, they wanted another guy to take the top off. That's Jim McElwain's term. He always says it. We got to be able to hit you with the deep ball, be a threat. Davis caught a 72-yard touchdown pass over the top. Labus threw a great ball. He was wide open. That was his first game as a Chippewa, transfer from Valpo. He caught 2 touchdown passes. And then Evan Boyd, he's not a transfer, but he redshirted last year. He's a big body right from down the road in East Lansing, about an hour south of Mount Pleasant. He caught his first touchdown pass for 47 yards. So those are the 2 guys. And Stephon Bracey also, he took the kick return back. He struggled last year. He transferred from Wisconsin. I think it was maybe just trying to find his footing in the offense. The offense in general was struggling. He had some drops. He made a couple of nice catches on Thursday night, and they certainly hope he's another speedster that can potentially add to the attack and strengthen things in the passing attack.
So let's move over to Central Michigan's defense. They were rated one of the worst defenses overall in the MAC last season. I believe only Western Michigan and Kent State gave up more points per game than the Chippewas. What steps has the team done to improve that, as far as keeping the talent that they had in and bringing some new transfers in to sort of fix what the problems that they had?
Yeah, you hit it on the head. They did not get to the quarterback last year, and that's the big thing. Rob Akey, in a program that has had guys come in and then move to get better jobs after their good seasons in 2019-21. Rob Akey has been a staple and right next to Jim McElwain's hip since they got to Mount Pleasant. So he's got experience. They've got cohesion, being here for 6 years. But last year they just did not get pressure. And that's not them saying, hey, we need to get sacks, albeit their sacks were down. They didn't get TFLs. They didn't cause disruption in the quarterback's face. And then you look at everything spirals from there, right? If you're not getting pressure on the quarterback, then you're leaving your cornerbacks, your defensive backs out on an island, and they're getting plucked apart. So the passing defense didn't look good. The rushing defense, which is typically the strength of a Central Michigan defense, it has been really the last 15 years in the MAC. CMU is predominantly right at the top with a rushing defense that is stout. And they just could not get, well, for whatever reason, they couldn't get off blocks. They couldn't get pressure last year. They couldn't get in the backfield. So they did add a couple of pieces. Pius Ojugo is a transfer from Garden City. They're super excited about. And then they just got older. Cade Custis is a redshirt sophomore who saw a little bit of time. They're really excited about his camp. They brought in a transfer from Wayne State down in the Detroit area, and Jaden Davis. And then Jonah Pace and Jason Williams, J-Dub, two guys that just got older. They hadn't had a ton of experience. And then you tack on with Michael Heldman on the other end. They feel good about their front. Now, we'll see how they look. It's going to be a big test this week, obviously, because I know there's good returners coming back for FIU on the offensive line. But that's the key, is the front four. Can they get pressure? And then they added some pieces in the backfield as well. They've got a true freshman in Jayon Jackson that comes back, and he's starting at cornerback. And then you bring back Dante Kent. He's an all-MAC selection. Will play that nickel cornerback spot. And their linebacking core is probably the deepest position group on the team. So there's good pieces there, which is why I was so curious why they struggled so much last year. But again, I know that you get sick of hearing this cliche that it all starts up front, but Rob Akey will tell you, if they get pressure up front, things look a lot different last year.
Yeah. All right. With all that said, Central Michigan, I believe they opened up as 4-point favorites on the road at Pitbull Stadium against the FIU Panthers. In your opinion, what will the Chippewas need to do right if they want to spoil FIU's home opener?
Well, it's a big challenge going on the road. It doesn't help that you got FIU coming off a loss on the road. It's their home opener. It's the home opener for Pitbull Stadium, which is so cool. We are pumped to come down there, and man, you couldn't be talking to a bigger Pitbull fan. So I feel like the bullseye is on my chest for why FIU chose us to come in here and play this game. But it's hot down there, right? There's Midwest heat, and then there's Miami, Florida heat. So that's a factor. There's no really real way to prepare for that. You're going to go down there and play 60 minutes. It's going to be hot. I think it all starts, and you're going to know better than me, Jake. You got to contain Jenkins.
Right.
He can rush it. He can throw it. I was impressed, even though they couldn't move the football as well against an Indiana team that looked pretty good. But what a great season he had last year. It looks like, maybe he's got the potential chance to turn the football over a little bit. So I'd say that's something, that's always a big part. Can they go down there, take care of the football, but can they find a way to cause some turnovers? And you're gonna have to protect, right? It's a big challenge, protecting from an FCS team to protecting against a team out of Conference USA that's got some big fellows up there that can get to the quarterback. There wasn't much of a pressure-filled consistency in Joe Labus's face last week. There's going to be energy. There's going to be talent on the other side of the ball. So they're going to have to do a good job of protecting, and they're certainly going to have to run the ball better than they did last week. So I know that's a lot. I'm spilling a ton, but this isn't going to be an easy game. It's not, hey, CMU won 66-10 and FIU lost, so CMU is going to go win this game. No, that's a Big Ten opponent. This is an FCS opponent, and you're going on the road for the first time with a lot of new players and new positions. So this is certainly going to be a big challenge for CMU, and we're going to find out a lot about who this team is after Saturday.
All righty, Adam, thank you so much for spending some time with us today. If you could drop your ats to your social media platforms so people can follow your work and preview themselves for Central Michigan.
Yeah, absolutely. You can find me on Twitter. It's just my first and last name, Adam Jaksa, Jaksa. Okay. And if you're interested in Instagram, it's the same thing. So it's a lot of CMU content, and excited to get ready for this game coming up on Saturday.
All right. Again, thank you so much, Adam. Let's get back to the Paws Up preview. All righty then. Welcome back to the Paws Up preview. I hope you enjoyed that segment. Again, thank you to Adam Jaksa for spending some time with us. You can go follow him on all socials at Adam Jaksa. So, Kevin, what are your final thoughts on this matchup for FIU and Central Michigan? It's even. Vegas says it's pretty even, too. It opened up, I believe, Central Michigan was 2 and a hook. Now it's bumped up to 6 and a hook. It might go up even further because of that Reggie Peterson news. We will see. But I feel like it's going to be an even contest all around.
Yeah, honestly, I would take FIU to win this one.
Yeah.
Just I thought, well, I gotta give it up already, but
Well, save your score. Save your score to the end.
I'll save the score. But yeah, I do feel really good about this game. Obviously, the loss of Reggie definitely puts us down in the dumps a little bit, but
Yeah.
I still feel pretty good, man. I think it's gonna be a really, really, really good show out to this game with the first game at Pitbull Stadium, all the pins that they're giving out. It should be
10,000, by the way. So
yes, a lot of them. So
be
I don't
there
know.
or be square. They might sell them after. I mean, so get them while you still can. Who knows what's gonna happen to them? Get them. They're, in case you haven't seen the design, they're super sick.
Yeah, they're very cool. And it's like a commemorative pin too, with
Yeah.
the date of the first game ever at Pitbull Stadium. So I think definitely, I don't know how much the home crowd is going to help you out, but I think this FIU team's not very happy right now with everything that's gone these last week and a half, with the loss of their star linebacker and then the loss against Indiana, which I'm sure they're all pissed about. So
Yeah.
they're going to be playing with a chip on their shoulder, and I'm not saying this in a bad way, but it may feel a little bit easier just off the get-go going from a P5 to a G5. So it's definitely going to help a little bit. I think just that, not the obviously the drop off in talent, just no offense the way I'm saying it, just the way it is, but
Yeah.
definitely should help FIU. And they know they're playing for their lives on Saturday because they need to win that game. They need to win it.
They need to win the entire month of September, really, because again, after this, you go to Boca. That's going to be a tough contest, but from what we've seen, the limited amount we've seen from FIU, they have some weaknesses FIU can expose. Then you take on Monmouth FCS, and then you take on La Tech, who is scheduled to be one of the weaker teams in the conference, at least according to Go Tech. Please don't die. But all right, let's get into a look around FIU athletics. What to keep an eye on in the 305. So FIU men's soccer currently stands with an 0-3-1 record. They're coming off a draw against the 14th ranked Georgetown Hoyas. Their next match will be this upcoming Wednesday, September the 11th at 7 p.m. over at the Leyva Family Field at the FIU Soccer Stadium when they host the 17th ranked UCF Knights. That's going to be a really good one, Kevin, and a really important one for this team too, to get a statement win here early on in the season and finally get a win in that win column. Then they'll go on a road trip after that as well. So definitely going to be a big one there this upcoming Wednesday for men's soccer. Now, women's soccer currently stands with a 3-3 record. Their painful road stretch to begin the season is over. They finally get to come back home and play a match in front of the fans here in the 305, again at the Leyva Family Field, when they take on Southeastern Louisiana tomorrow, September the 7th at 10 a.m. So it's a doubleheader tomorrow, Panthers fans. Get up early and go to that game. Support your Panthers as they take on the Lions of Southeastern Louisiana. They'll then take on CMU also at home on Thursday, September the 12th at 7 p.m. So 2 back-to-back games you could probably consider going to for a very solid women's soccer team. Shout out Reagan Bridges' latest episode of the podcast. And finally, the FIU indoor volleyball team currently stands with an 0-4 record after a tough stretch over in Dayton. They are currently in the Duke tournament over in Durham, North Carolina. They're going to take on the Duke Blue Devils tomorrow, Saturday, September 7th at 4 p.m. Then they'll take on Davidson on September 8th at 1 p.m. And it's still going to be a while until their first matches at the Ocean May Convocation Center. Their first one is against Texas Tech on Thursday, September the 19th at 6 p.m. So that was your quick look at the world of FIU athletics. So now we get into some Conference USA talk, Kevin, and let's take a quick look here at what happened last week and this week in Conference USA. It's time to check in on our good old friends and foes here. And last week had some mixed results for the world of Conference USA, some good wins here and there, some bad losses as well. Let's quickly see how everyone did in week one. First off, Kevin, I think I'm just as shocked as you were. Coastal Carolina put a hurting on Jacksonville State by a score of 55-27. We were both on Jacksonville State because of that defense, but they proceeded to give up 55 points. So that's a tough look there for the Gamecocks. And UTSA defeated Kennesaw State by a score of 28-16. I don't think either of us are really surprised at that. Nebraska dismantled UTEP by a score of 40-7. Again, that was to be expected. I don't think either of us are too shocked at that one. Liberty beat Campbell 41-24, but that game was closer than that score. I might tell you, they were only winning by one possession for a good majority of that game before they pulled away in the end. MTSU edged out Tennessee Tech, and again, a very close game. I believe Tennessee Tech was winning at some point and had the opportunity to win in the fourth quarter, or at least take the lead, but they just didn't. Sam Houston State put a hurting on Rice, 34-14. I think every FBS team that has the name Owls lost in week one. That includes FAU, Kennesaw, Rice, and I believe Temple. Alabama shut out 63-0. I don't know about you, Kevin. I expected Western Kentucky to at least put up some points, but they didn't do that.
Yeah,
I think they definitely had the worst loss of anyone in week one in Conference USA.
Yeah.
Louisiana Tech beat Nicholls State. It was, again, closer than the experts thought, 25-17. And then Southeastern Missouri really should have beaten New Mexico State, but they didn't. The Aggies scored a late touchdown in the end to get them the lead, and they held on to it by a score of 23-16. So your records for week one, I went 8-2, and Kevin went 9-1. We both got the Jacksonville State game wrong, obviously, and I also went Rice over Sam Houston State. I guess I drunk the Kool-Aid on that one, but that's okay because we're about to switch things up here in week two of Conference USA. So let's get right into it. Starting off with some nationally ranked opponents, Jacksonville State is going to look to rebound when they have to go to Louisville and take on the currently ranked 22nd best in the country, Louisville Cardinals, at 3:30 p.m. on Sunday. Ugh. I no joke, I probably would have taken Jacksonville State in the upset, but after seeing that defense and what they did against Coastal, I have to go Louisiana.
Yeah, give me Louisiana. Louisville.
Louisville, yeah. Next up, Middle Tennessee is taking on Ole Miss. They are currently ranked 6th in the nation. That's at 4:15. Come on. I mean, yeah, got to take Ole Miss. It would be interesting to see if Middle Tennessee kept it close, but I think that's going to be a blowout.
Yeah.
All right. Again, we'll save FIU Central Michigan for last. Sam Houston taking on UCF. This could be a great game. 6:30 p.m. KJ Jefferson better watch out. That Sam Houston defense looked pretty solid. I'm going to take UCF in a very, very close one. I think Sam Houston makes it interesting.
I agree. Give me UCF.
All right, moving on now. We have Western Kentucky taking on Eastern Kentucky. It's the Battle of Kentucky. However, the Colonels are of FCS. That's at 7 o'clock. Fun fact, Kevin, that was supposed to be a whiteout game for Western Kentucky, but Eastern Kentucky used their privilege of being the road team to take the white uniforms away from Western. So I think it's going to be a blowout. They're going to be mad. I'll take the Hilltoppers.
Yeah, give me the Hilltoppers. I think they're going to absolutely destroy Eastern Kentucky.
I feel good about that. Next up, Kennesaw State, still looking for their first win in FBS. They're hosting the Louisiana Ragin' Cajuns of the Sun Belt. That's at 7 o'clock. Kind of feels like an even game, Kevin. I might actually take Kennesaw in a close one. Their home opener. I'll take the Owls.
Give me the Ragin' Cajuns.
Okay. The podcast roundtable won't like the Sun Belt knocking off Conference USA yet again, but it is what it is. UTEP's taking on Southern Utah at 9 o'clock. It's kind of a toss-up game. I'll go UTEP again in a very close one. I think Southern Utah is a decent FCS squad, but I'll take the Miners.
Yeah, I think it'll be a little bit closer than expected. And I think I saw this. Scotty Walden, the UTEP head coach, said that they sold about 34,000 tickets.
Yeah, they're going to pack that place.
That's going to be close to a sellout. And Scotty Walden has got the troops filling into those seats. So give me UTEP.
And then the last matchup of the night is actually a conference complete matchup. It's Liberty taking on New Mexico State. That's at 10:15 in the night. I don't really care that it's in Las Cruces. I'm going to say the Flames win pretty easily.
Going to get a rematch of the Conference USA Championship game, and I think this time I think Liberty will destroy New Mexico State. New Mexico State is not very good. I'm very shocked that they beat the FCS team. So
they really shouldn't have.
They really shouldn't have. Yeah. Dumb and honestly, I think Middle Tennessee too.
Yeah. So by the way, I forgot to mention Louisiana Tech has the week off. That's why they're not here.
That sucks. Imagine playing a week one game and all of a sudden you get a week off.
I know it feels weird. I think Ball State hasn't even played a game yet. Ball State of the MAC has not even played a game yet. Their first two weeks have been buys. So
that's so bad. That's really bad too. I mean,
I know.
That's really bad.
All right.
You wish you could put those in the middle of the season, not at the start.
Alrighty then. The time has come to make our final prediction of the night, the one that matters the most. Who is winning this game between the FIU Panthers and the Central Michigan Chippewas, as well as we need a score. So, Kevin, start us off. Who's winning this game?
I think you guys already heard more or less what I wanted to say. I think it'll be a very, very close game. I'm going to take FIU taking down the Chippewas by a final score of 38 FIU.
Wow.
31 Central Michigan. I think both offenses will really explode in this game. We saw already Central Michigan do that once. I think FIU is just bound to do it as well after a very disappointing performance against Indiana. I think the defenses will kind of hold it up a little bit. If you're going to look for a comparison of what this game could look like, go look back at the North Texas game from last year, which FIU won in, where Keyshawn Owens really exploded for, I believe, 4 touchdowns. So look at that one, then come back to me next weekend, and you'll see why I took FIU to win this one.
You say the defenses hold it down, but if FIU puts up 38 points, I'm going to say that's a solid night of business for the Panthers offense.
You'll take that.
I'm going to agree here. I think both defenses are a little battered and bruised. They're going to be a bit underwhelming in this matchup. Obviously, with FIU, you don't have Reggie. In Central Michigan, they're a bit unproven against a mediocre FCS squad. I do think the fact that FIU took on the best opponent they will all season will help them in this matchup because it's only going to go downhill from here. No offense to Central Michigan, of course, but I don't know. I feel like FIU is really going to play with a chip on their shoulder and are going to catch Central Michigan off guard. I am going to go FIU 28, Central Michigan 17.
Wow. All right. You have a big one.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I just think Central Michigan's offense is going to fall flat here. And,
what does EA have to say?
EA, oh yeah, I almost forgot. It's time for the Week 2 sim. Let's take a look at what College Football 25 thinks for this matchup.
It's one thing to execute early in the game. Tight ball game, right at the end. You need the clutch plays. These guys deliver.
And you can't teach that gene. You have people that can focus in the moment or they can't. Great job by the team, staying focused, understanding it's a close battle, win those one play at a time, and then look up and then, heck, I got the win.
Yeah, David, they just had ice in their veins, and you can tell there's tremendous leadership on this football team. Guys can step up, and in the huddle, they can make sure that everybody else.
I like it. EA.
Hey, man, EA has them at 2-0 right now.
Yeah, the EA's cooking as far as
and by the way, these are first-time sims.
I can absolutely confirm this is first time as well. So, yeah, alrighty then. So, by the way, shout out to everyone who watched episode 69 featuring Reagan Bridges. That was a fun episode.
Yeah,
episode
definitely.
70 might be coming soon. We might have a dope guest for that. Can't share anything yet, but
there's a lot going up actually, surprisingly, for the podcast side of things.
But for now, y'all better pack the cage, all right? Pack the cage tomorrow night, FIU and Central Michigan at 6 o'clock. Get those pins and support the Panthers. That energy better be lights out.
Lights out! Lights out!
Good one.
All righty. Any final thoughts before our viewers go to bed and wake up tomorrow ready to watch some college football?
I'm so excited to be at a football stadium for the next 4 Saturdays, Jake, having some Jersey Mikes. I heard Boca gives us some barbecue, so I'm excited for that. And then we're getting our Jersey Mikes for another 2 games. And hopefully all 4 of those are FIU dubs.
Not to mention the brand new backdrop for the press conferences.
It looks cool.
Looks fire. Oh my gosh. Alrighty then. So everyone enjoy the game tomorrow. Pack the cage if you're able to. If you're not, the game can be seen on ESPN Plus. And we'll catch you again for the halftime report and the post-game show. But until then, Paws up.
Let's go.